I hope you're doing well. I'm sitting here with Kyle Studer. All right, from kylestuder.com. We are going to be talking today, oh my goodness, about the MLM cultness, okay? Drinking the Kool-Aid and dying, okay? Nobody's dying. But that's what we're going to talk about. We're going to talk about the MLM pitfalls, what to avoid from a pro that has been there, done that, got the Kool-Aid, okay, and threw it away in time. So that's what we're going to talk about today. If you need help, by the way, reach out, jasonfinalexpense.com. I train, recruit, and coach amazing agents in Medicare and life insurance. But without further ado, Kyle, thank you for coming today. Introduce yourself, Kyle.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Jason. As he said, my name is Kyle Studer. I recruit and train life insurance agents as well, focused on final expense. So that's me, and we're going to try to shed some light on my MLM experience. And hopefully, I always like to, before Jason starts, hammering me with questions, I always like to say this. Our goal, or at least my goal here, is definitely not to, if you're an MLM agent, I'm not here to bash you. I'm not here to make fun of you or tell you you're so crazy or you're stupid. Or I did this business and I was so invested into it. And I had people tell me that while I was in the MLM business, and it didn't help me. It didn't help me change. It didn't. So I want to shed some light. I just want to educate people. If you're committed to your company, I think that's awesome. That's how you have to be in this industry. So I'm not making fun. I'm just sharing with you my experience and then giving you some things that maybe you're unaware of. So I just like to start with that, brother.
Absolutely. Well, knowledge is power. Right? Knowledge will help you be powerful, but also position yourself accordingly. And there's nothing wrong with temporarily being in a place that you're at, right? Some people choose captivity, right? As far as being a captive agent at first before they go full-blown independent. And there's nothing wrong with that, right? Grow, where you've been planted for the time being. Just don't get yourself root locked, right? You don't want to be that pot that sits there and can't expand. And that's something where it doesn't mean you can't do some great things. But there's a point where you pot out, right? You just can't expand beyond where you're at. And the MLM structure definitely has some things to be, weary of for sure. But it's just, if you like that thing, that's all right. No poo-pooing on this, but yeah, so when you were, kind of drawn in, what were some warning signs of the MLM structure that you saw, Kyle, when you first got, kind of brought on into that? Because I know a lot of folks, they don't know enough to look at the warning signs of what does an MLM look like. Would you mind sharing that with the audience?
Sure. So, I guess I was young. I was 22, 23. I was a sucker, and the funny thing is I was trying not to get got. When I was just finishing up college, somebody invited me into Amway. So I did that for 2 weeks, and then I got my $200 back. And I texted everybody, about the opportunity. And then, so when this next opportunity come about in insurance, I went to a meeting, in an office, same setup. There's a whiteboard. There's an aisle in the middle, chairs on both sides. They'll get you to sit in the front row. All right, just to share with you a little bit of what this is going to be like. You may be called off of a resume, or maybe a friend invited you, is probably a very likely circumstance. And you'll be sitting there. They'll say, dress sharp, casual. You don't have to wear a suit and a tie, but you want to look sharp. And you'll be sitting there looking around like, you don't know anybody. Then somebody's going to come up. They're going to introduce a speaker. They're going to elevate the speaker. They're going to put him on a pedestal, tell you how great he is, how much business they do, how much money was deposited in their checking account last month or last year, how many trips around the world they take, right? So they get your attention. And then they introduce Jason, final expense, And so when Jason or whoever, gets up there and speaks, you're listening. And so if you're in an environment like that, it's probably MLM. And then you see them start drawing circles on the board, or maybe the more in-depth ones, they'll draw hearts, They're trying to inject some empathy. They'll draw hearts on the board. You recruit Jose, and Jose recruits Hose B, and he recruits Bob or Jill. So it's likely that's kind of what the experience looks like initially on the front end. Also on the phone interview, it'll be vague. They'll be vague. They don't want to get into specifics. So hopefully that gives you a head start on knowing what to look for.
So it's a lot more on the recruitment side, more the rah-rah side than it is more like the real ways to be a top producer is kind of what you're saying a little bit. They're kind of talking about recruiting everybody you know to try to build to the next level. Is that kind of their focus?
Sure. And, even when I was there years and years and years, I spent 4.5 years there, the CEO and president. And this is true, but you also need concrete training as well. You need training. But they always would say it's more about the why to than the how to. And meaning it's more about, do you know why you want to do this? Rather than you being trained and knowing how to do it. So they emphasize emotion, motivation. They want you to take a leap of faith. And some organizations, they do offer some training, but yeah, you're correct. It's very much on the recruitment side and not a whole lot of nuts and bolts. Sometimes the person who called you, oftentimes the person who called you or invited you out knows not much more than you. So that's a big, if you needed heart surgery, right? You don't want to call your friend who's been in the heart surgeon for a week, or he's a graduate assistant. Like, you want to go to the best. And so that's kind of an analogy. I know that heart surgery is serious. That's life or death. Well, this is a serious business. If you're going to get into business for yourself, like you want to change your financial future for your family, you need to take it serious. You need to be following someone that can help you. You should vet that person. So.
And that's so important. I always say on my channel, I'm always like, vet your trainer, please vet your trainer. Like, if you're trying to do final expense telesales, Medicare telesales, and you're learning from a face-to-face insurance agency that never did this, okay, until COVID happened. And then it's like, oh, now I'm going to step into telesales. It's like, run. This happens so often. I see it. It's like people get harmed because it's like you're being taught from folks that haven't sold 20 final expense telesales policies in their lifetime. And it's like, yikes, run for the hills. And you wonder why you're not breaking even. It's like you were just shined on. It's like the MLM Kool-Aid, the rah-rah Kool-Aid. And it can happen even in the independent world. It really can. Sometimes where you get the, all smoke, no fire, where you're getting shined on something where you're not given intellectual property, but the rah-rah instead of the how-to, the nuts and bolts. That's so key. I've witnessed this with agents that I've brought on that have come from other agencies, and nothing against the agencies, because it's just like dogs, right? You can have a big pack of dogs and most of them are good, but a couple of them will bite you, and then maybe a couple of them will just pee on the floor. Some dog that's like some brand new agent that they're great agents, but they immediately get like pulled into the MLM, like, oh, you're now a manager, and that's how you're going to make your money. You don't have to work anymore. Just go be a manager and train people. And it's like, well, I've never really sold more than 50 policies, but okay, sure. That sounds great. And it's like, you gotta know something before you can train. And that's what I respect about you. And that's why I've got you on, because you actually do it. You've been there, done that. You've done the 6-figure work, okay, in the field. And it's just phenomenal. So when you're transferring skill set, it's a whole different experience. So when you were in that, MLM environment, were you ever in a position where you felt like it was like they were more in control of your business than you were in some ways? Because I know some reps have felt that way. I didn't know if that was your experience in the MLM side. Was that any warning little bells going off in you, where maybe you had at times where, they were more micromanagey or wanted to really put you under a microscope per se? Because I know in the independent world, it's nice because we're free and we get to not be micromanaged and run our business like it's our own. Did you ever have any of those experiences where you were like micromanaged or really put under that?
Not so much for me. So I came from a captive broker model. So, and it was set up pretty independently. I didn't go to an office. We did have weekly meetings that they really encourage you to go to, and I went to them all. But I was happy to do it. And I think honestly, Jason, like in the beginning, I just didn't know anything. So like, I didn't even really wonder. And honestly, I think this is partially why I was successful, why I'm still in the industry, is I bought into this idea of tunnel vision. Like focus on this, do this. I didn't think, well, I wonder if there's a better carrier, than what we're offering. Are these companies adequate to others in the industry, or are there opportunities? I didn't really think about it. I did have a few people try to tell me like, oh yeah, I know that company, they were the best thing since sliced bread. Let me show you what I've got. And we'll give you this much money or this much of a higher contract. But I can't say that I was micromanaged really. They want you to buy in, they want you to exercise your free will to follow and to buy into that dream. And that's what I did. So I didn't feel micromanaged. I didn't have my manager, other than the aspect of, I didn't get this because they knew I was committed. But like, most people aren't going to be that committed. So most people are going to experience things like, hey, you on the call? Hey, you on the Zoom training? Hey, you coming to the meeting? Hey, where you at? Hey, did you make dials this week? For the majority of agents, they're going to experience that type of micromanagement. Probably even in the organization that I came from. I think I was just the exception because the guy who was training me, we talked all the time willingly, and he didn't really micromanage me because he probably didn't really need to as much.
Well, if you're a type A and you're getting it done, I mean, your results always showed. So he's not going to be like, oh, hey, I'm going to have to put my thumb on this, individual. But, I've seen the captive side of the world. I've seen the independent side of the world. And I've seen this too, where it's like, oh, come bring your appointment book and come sit down in my office. Let's go over it. It's like, really? Like, oh, you need to show up to my meeting. We're having book club. It's like, and if you didn't read the chapter in this book, get the heck out of my meeting. It's like, what? It's like,
yeah, there's one organization in particular. I talked to a lot of their agents, and it blows my mind the amount. They're 1099 agents. And it blows my mind the amount of time that they want to suck from this agent. They want you working Monday through Saturday, and then sometimes on Sunday they're doing some live stuff over Zoom. I'm like, man, you're 1099, dude. Like, that means they can't say anything. You work when you work and you earn what you earn. They don't have any skin in the game, really. So when someone doesn't have any skin in the game, like I was talking to an agent yesterday, he's a potential recruit looking to go independent. We were talking about a captive opportunity, and he's telling me about it, and it comes with a little salary of like 35 or 30,000 a year. I was like, dude, my first job was 35,000 a year out of college, and after taxes and medical, I would invest 200 hours a month. And I would get $1,822 deposited in my bank account a month. So what's a $30,000 salary? I was like, dude, that's 3 final expense policies. We're not talking about a whole month. You can write 3 policies in a day. On a good day, you can write 3 policies even as a face-to-face agent, But what happens is when you take that false sense of security, this 30,000, there's a big trade-off, and you give away your freedom, and you give away your time, and you open yourself up to be micromanaged, and someone else is going to set your schedule for you because you haven't shown the ability to do it yourself. and it's not fulfilling. And that's why I was telling the guy, I said, dude, security has brought you to this point. That's why we're talking. And I talked to you 3 months ago. You know, so security keeps getting you back to you questioning what you're doing. You know,
that security blanket will suffocate you if you let it. And that's why it's like that little like security blanket of, oh, here's a little $20,000 salary. By the way, you're W-2 and I own you. A lot of people, I appreciate you bringing that up. If you're 1099, they can suggest that you show up on a Zoom meeting, et cetera, et cetera. They can never demand that you do. The only legal time that they can ever do this for everybody watching is if it's compliance related. Okay. If your upline, your manager says, hey, I need you to get on this Zoom at 8 o'clock, give you a little notice, say on this time, I need you to be here. This is mandatory. If it's compliance related, they can legally do that to you as a 1099. Outside of compliance, it is not legal, unless you're a W-2. Okay. If they're asking you to show up to these meetings and then putting teeth into you for not, that's not legal. I hope they're writing you a check for the time of your life that you'll never get back. The hourglass. It's just stupid. So I appreciate you bringing that up for our viewers, because a lot of folks don't realize this in MLMs or captive agencies or even independent agencies are being told, hey man, get on this Zoom right now. It's like, I'm not saying it's not important to be on certain training Zooms. It is valuable, but do it because you want to, not because you've got a bayonet put in your back illegally and told you march when I tell you to march. That's not why anyone's an independent insurance agent. 1099, okay, eating what you kill, working hard, taking care of great people. So for everybody, understand W-2, they can tell you what to do. 1099, you're feeling fine, but no, they can't. Okay, not legal. So yeah, no, that is gold. So when you were on the MLM side, when you were looking at leaving the MLM structure, how would someone like transition properly? Because I know you've done it successfully. And maybe some advice for someone that says, you know, I'm not an MLM kind of a guy. Is there anything to look at, like maybe before they leave or think about leaving, maybe look into maybe like in forms of paperwork or things to make sure that they can transition out without causing a lot of friction? Because a lot of agents leave wrong and it creates a lot of trouble. I don't know if you experienced any of that or know of agents that have had that. If you could share maybe some of that with us.
Sure. Yeah. Great question. So one thing you learn as a recruiter, or when you start building an agency, you start to learn how each organization tends to handle things. You know, you see this captive organization, wow, I brought 3 agents over from there and they all got stuck with vectors and chargebacks 5 months later. Oh, that's unique. So you see how they operate and then you learn from those experiences. So here's what I did. And it worked marvelously. And by the way, I came from an organization that is known that they will hammer you. They will sue you. I know people, here's why they sue people. Because you're silly and you get greedy, right? Sometimes I want to leave the MLM world because I'm like, man, this guy has taught me a lot, but he seems kind of greedy. He's got a Ferrari, he's got a plane, he's got all this stuff. And you're at this low comp. So we think they're greedy, so we want to leave. A lot of people turn around and do the same thing. You yourself get greedy. And you start thinking, man, how many agents could I take with me? You will get sued. You will get yourself in legal trouble. And here's what I decided was like, even if I could take a huge, and I know people, they've taken their own agencies. I mean, they got big agencies. They leave, they take a large portion of the company. They're making a great income on the agents they took, but they're giving away their peace because they're going to be sued, and they've got way deeper pockets than you. So my advice is, like I did, don't tell anybody, hey man, you and me, we're friends. I'm leaving. You know, I found this guy on YouTube. He's going to give us 100% contracts. We still buy leads. Like, don't tell people you're leaving because you can get in serious trouble and it's not worth it. So what I did to answer the question point blank, I didn't say anything to anybody. I went out, I had a great month, sold a lot of insurance. So I tucked some money away, and then I didn't call them and terminate my contract. I just didn't say anything to anybody. I knew I could transfer my contracts in 6 months. I didn't even know where I was going. I didn't even know what organization I was going to go with. And I just didn't create any friction. My upline to this day has called me probably 15 times. Even like last year or earlier this year, I get a call, and I've just never taken it yet. So I just kind of ghosted them. And I didn't try to take any agents. I didn't give them any reason to try to bury me. But I know people who have, and I know, one guy in particular, I won't obviously mention any details, but he sued for almost $1 million, filed bankruptcy. Like, is that what you want? So don't do that. I think it's best just to not create waves and leave. And I understand there's this aspect like, well, Kyle, I'm a stand-up guy. I want to have a conversation with them. And I respect that. But in some cases, and that's normally what I would do, right? Like, I don't want to hide in the bushes or sneak away. That's not my personality type. I want to be respectful. I wish I could thank them for everything they did for me. But I know people who have done that. And they say, well, just in the best interest of you and everyone involved, we're going to hold your commissions. So you don't get your back end commissions. You wrote 2 policies last week. You're not getting your commissions when they get approved. So unfortunately, those are the things that I've seen.
Absolutely. And that's so gold. I appreciate you sharing that with the audience. And, I've seen situations where somebody, mouths up and like, oh, hey, thanks everybody. I'm putting my 2 weeks notice. I'm going to leave in 4 weeks from now. Great. And then they lock the doors to the building and says, yeah, okay, thanks. Don't come around. You're good. Like, what just happened? I tried to do everything right. And then it's like the management go back and free look those policies within those 30 days, flip them, and then they get paid. They like try to make somebody else money off what you already did. It's like almost like they choke you out on purpose just to hurt you. And it's like, you think you're doing the right thing. And then next thing you know, you've got these chargebacks you're talking about. And it's sometimes it's management or the trainers or whoever is just trying to hurt you. Like, I'm going to make a point of that guy there. I'm going to make sure that I make him hurt when he leaves, because once you leave, you're dead to us. And as I've seen that in the MLM side, I've seen it even in captive agencies and independent agencies. It's very like kind of the underbelly, right? The undercurrent of the industry. It's like, that's so wise. And I always say, look at your non-solicitation agreements. That's really important. A lot of places have a non-solicitation agreement. Make sure you look at it. Make sure if you're thinking about recruiting or having conversations even with someone from your old place, have a attorney actually look over that stuff. Just have an attorney. In a multitude of counsel, there's wisdom. And have an attorney look over those things for you, just to keep you out of trouble, so you don't ever get into a position like Kyle's saying here of potential litigation, right? You want to sleep at night, not worry. And if you've got good legal advice that says, hey, you looked over your agreement, your arbitration agreement that you signed, and you're so brand new, you may not even know what you signed, and then you go to leave, you're like, what?
Right. Yeah. And I went on and on with my first answer. So you had multiple parts to that question I forgot to answer, but yeah, a lot of agents will hear that referred to as the agent agreement. And generally what we see is it's 2 years, like 2 years until you can call your clients, 2 years until you could potentially recruit an agent or anything like that. So, and that's one more thing you asked, is there anything else that they should do? I would, if you've got any amount of clients, depending on what your contract says, you got to read your contract, just like Jason said, and seek some help so you know you're protecting yourself. But if there's a way to do it, I would download those clients. I would keep record of them, and don't call them for whatever their contract stipulates. They wrote the contract, so it's their rules. If they wrote 2 years, then that means, hey, 24 months goes by quickly. And if you're going to be still in this business, wouldn't it be nice 2 years later to get back those, 1,000 clients that you wrote, that now you can legally contact. And every organization is different. Every agreement is different. And what's funny is they're always updating the agreements, you know? So, and they're never in your favor, you know? And to summarize it, it tells you, hey, you have no leverage. We own the clients. You pay us for the leads. And then you sell those. Those are our clients. Those are our leads. Even though you bought them, they're still ours. So you have no leverage. But where you should be excited, what you should be excited about is what you've learned. You know, they can't tax your intellect. They can't come after that as easily. So take what you've learned. And oftentimes, you know, when I left, I doubled my compensation. So I had all these skills I learned, and I more than doubled what I was making on each policy. So yeah.
That's some good math. Yeah, that's some good math.
It was shocking, man. I was so shocked. It was like, oh my gosh, it really was more than double. I was like, oh my gosh. And, you know, I'm not at the top of the totem pole even now. So what they were making on an agent in that organization is like crazy. And they're charging the agent for everything. So it was a business model set up to get one man ridiculously wealthy, and it worked. And he has added a lot of value to a lot of people in a lot of ways. I wouldn't be where I'm at without the mentorship and the training and stuff. So we all pay our dues. We all, you know, you learn. This is how you learn in life. But if I could do anything differently, you know, I probably wouldn't have spent 4.5 years there. Probably would have, because, you know, you're pretty trained. It doesn't take, you know, you're continuously learning, but you got the basics down relatively quick. So
it's almost like it's not like brainwashing per se, but it kind of is, where they've got you so like, this is the only game in town. You can only be successful in the little circle of XYZ company. Is that kind of what they preach a little bit? Kind of cult-like that way? Is that accurate? Or what was your experience when you were there? Is that kind of what they were focusing on?
Yeah, I mean, and a lot of the captive organizations have this in common. They have this way of communicating that says, hey, if it's not this way, it's wrong. You know, if it's not this way, we don't need to hear about it, talk about it. And so, yeah, I mean, the cult like stuff, they want your eyeballs. They want you watching them, listening to them. They want you on every conference call. You can't, you know, you might know, Jason, that like Hitler, when he was in power, said, like, if I want to take over a country, let me control their music and something else, like what's going into your head constantly. You can't let just anybody speak into your life, because not everybody wants to help you. And in that case, what they want to teach you, in my opinion, is they want to teach you how to become a production machine. But it's case by case. But in my case, you know, I had a guy straight up tell me 4.5 years in, he said, you know who we make our money off of? Ignorant people. We make our money off of ignorant salespeople. And that was the moment where I was like kind of taken back, like where my trust was broken, and everything that they had preached up to that point was like, this is way out of left field, you know? And so yeah, dude, if you get on 5 conference calls a week for 4.5 years, doesn't matter who you're listening to, they're going to change you. And I can tell you, I changed. In some ways it was good. In some ways it wasn't. So.
No, that's
careful.
I've seen that too, where it's like, you know, that certain agencies are like, yeah, we make money off the burn. And it's like, what? So it's like, you're not focusing on training people. You're just flipping them like a pancake and throwing them out once you burn them. Like, really? And it's like, yeah, we make money off the burn. We just, they can't touch any of their book. We just go back and replace all their business and give them a charge back. And then we make, all this extra money and take their Medicare supplements, and we just sit on them and make all the money and they get nothing. It's like, and you're happy about this. Like, that makes you gleeful, like with a smile on your face. Like, are you kidding me? It's like, that's just such a sick place to be. It's like, are you hamstringing somebody on purpose and you're smiling about it, or are you really helping them and like giving them a hand up in the industry? And that's what, good agency owners will do everything in their power to serve, the agents that they're so blessed to partner with. But there's an underbelly, there's an undercurrent out there that you got to be mindful of, and you're right. The whole, like what you're saying, Kyle, where it's like, oh, the Ferraris and this and that. And, when you leave, just leave right. It's like, you've got so much ability. Kyle left, an MLM, and he was able to be crazy successful, make way more money. I, have been in that place where I was hamstrung from a training perspective too. It's like, yikes, I've been there. And then they cut you so deep. And then, man, I've even had big ups in a company saying, man, you'll never make it if you go do your own thing. You'll never make it. And I'm like, are you kidding me? Like, wow, right? Never got that call ever again. The success you have, it's nuts.
They want you to believe that, and one thing I remember really feeling is like, and something I walked away with that I try to always remember, you will have, if you're a committed agent with your MLM and you're productive and, you've bought in, when you leave, you will have mixed feelings about you. I was questioning myself, like, man, am I doing the right thing, or am I quitting because I don't have what it takes? Is so-and-so right? Like, am I just quitting on myself? Am I taking the easy way out? And so you'll have this kind of conflicting feeling of like uncertainty. And at the end of the day, here's the lesson that I walked away with. You're a human, you're a man, you're a woman, you're an adult. You have to be the captain of your own soul. You've got to steer your own ship. You can't ask somebody who's financially compensated by your work. You don't want to ask their opinion. Mr. Upline, and I know you want to ask your upline for help, but in certain situations like this, it's like, it can, do I want to ask the CEO if I should leave? Is he going to tell me, the whole truth and nothing but the truth?
He's going to tell you he's paying you 45% comp when you can make 100, and tell you, oh no, you're fine. You're fine. Yeah. You'll never make it anywhere else ever. Okay. But if you stay here, you'll be fine. It's like,
right. He'll start telling you, he's seen a lot of agents over the years feel the same way. Here's what he found. They'll pull the old feel, felt, found method on you. Tell you about people who tried that in the past and failed. Guys, here's the conclusion I came to. When I was working at that organization, I bought leads. I made phone calls. I went to the appointments, all independently. I know a lot of agents are working independently from home over Zoom. When you go to that house, your upline ain't there. President of the company isn't there. So I want you to think about how much of this business you really do all by yourself. You do it independently. So don't be afraid of failing. If you fail, it's going to be because you don't do what you were doing in the past. If you've written 10,000 or 20,000 in a month, you can do it independently. The world is not any different. The leads are the same. You get a couple products, keep it simple in the beginning. It's the same skill set. It's setting appointments, resolving the leads. It's people. It's the people business. So
that's solid, Kyle. I mean, you're doing the heavy lifting as the agent force. It's like you are doing the heavy lifting, just like you need to have people that are working with boots on the ground with you. And it's like, they're, like you're saying, they're sowing seeds of doubt. They're sowing seeds of doubt. Like if you're a face-to-face agency, like, you'll never make it in telesales. It's horrible. It's like, yeah, you don't know how to use a phone. a plumber trying to tell a carpenter how to build a dang house. Yes, you're both in construction. You don't know what the heck you're doing on either side. And a construction worker can't tell the plumber how to put the toilet on right. Right? It's like, it's a bad situation either way. But I'm just saying,
Sure.
you got to have that mindset. And I think a lot of times you're right. They do sometimes they do like what you're saying. They sow those seeds of doubt, and it's just risk aversion. They know you're a success, but if they can cause you to doubt yourself and like, you can't survive unless you're in these little walls, it keeps a lot of people in that, I call it, you're in that dog cage. You're in a dog cage that you can't get out, and you feel like you're a dog that can't ever run free. And when you are freed, I mean, how did it feel for you when you were finally like, you were in that, captive MLM cage, and then you were just, obviously you exploded financially, crazy proud of your success. But, how did it feel when you finally like left, right, you didn't say anything, you kept your mouth shut, and you just left? How did it feel when you were just like opened up?
Yeah, that's actually a part of it that I didn't anticipate. Before I answer that, I want to tell you that the last topic we were talking about, when they start to sow seeds of doubt, notice the contradiction. Because when you got started, what kind of seeds were they sowing? What were they telling you to get you to take a leap of faith and buy leads and go 1099 and work for yourself? They were preaching faith, strength, hope, positivity, belief. And now all of a sudden, they try to sow you a seed of doubt when you try to do something for you and your own family that they don't get compensated off of. So when you see that contradiction, that's a red flag. One thing I've always valued people that are consistent. And I don't even mean in like production. I mean in their attitude. Like you see somebody, they're like, hey, what's up, man? Hey, how you doing? They're nice, they're kind. You see them another time, they're like, what's up, man? Good to see you. And it's just a totally different person. It's like, man, they're inconsistent. They're not steady. So notice the contradiction. In regards to like leaving, feeling free, man, this was something I didn't anticipate. You don't really notice that you're being repressed or that you got a ceiling or kind of like this imaginary thumb pressing down on you until you get out of it. But what's happened for me is like, I felt like some of my creativity had come back in regards to, hey, I know how to sell life insurance. I can leverage this skill a lot of ways. I could sell life insurance. I could start an agency and teach other people how to do it. I could create a YouTube channel and I could leverage my knowledge that way. I could create apparel for insurance agents. I could create like just t-shirts. I could write a book on my MLM experience. So my mind just opened up. And those are just some concrete examples of things that have crossed my mind and others that I would have never thought of when I was in that organization. Because when you're in an organization like that, you're so subject to, and you can't help it, social roles. He's the president. He's on stage. He leads the conference calls. He is the head of the conference. He's the leader. He's got the Ferrari. He's got a lot of power and leverage, and his words affect, the masses of the crowds that are there. This guy's his right-hand man. He's a vice president. He made $1 million when he was 24. There's rankings. Here's my upline, and then this is his upline, and then this is his upline. This guy's got the 2 biggest legs in the company. And so it's really hard. You naturally, it's so easy you stop seeing human beings as humans. You put them on this pedestal and you give them this leverage and power they really don't deserve. And to be honest with you, some of them are really impressive people and a lot of them are not. A lot of them, if you knew their private life, if you knew what was in their checking account, if you knew what their marriage was like, if you knew anything more than what they show you on stage, then you wouldn't be impressed. So yeah, when I left, it was nice to not be subject to those social rules. So think about this. you're in this company, you're brought in, and John Smith, the CEO, is the leader. He's your leader for 4 years. It's really hard to be in his world thinking that you can go higher than him. It's hard. It's like there's a movie I saw years ago called Room, and there was this little girl. She never left this room. Her and her mom, I think she was maybe kidnapped or something, and they were kept in this room, or like in a barn or a shed, like with no windows and stuff. And this little girl was born into this world. She had no idea what was outside of it. And this is like, I think it's a true story. And that is an extreme example, but it's a little bit like that, because you don't have any idea what's outside of it. It's hard to imagine anything better than the room, anything superior, because you just don't know anything. So yeah, it was very freeing, and it's continued to be that way, man. It's been probably the most rewarding thing that I didn't really expect.
Freedom and creativity. I mean, I understand the oppression. It's like you've got a cancer that was just removed from your body. It's great. Like when you're freed, on that level, it's just like, it doesn't stink, right? It's like, you don't even realize, you're like, whoo, I didn't even realize I needed a bypass, but now I can run, man. This dog knows how to hunt now. It's like when you're not having your manager having to, like, you got to beg them to give you your lead flow, like you're talking about how they control everything. And it's amazing. You don't even realize the level of control until you leave. You don't realize the level of control that they've had over you until you leave. And it's like when you have a good independent model or a good other type of an agency model, it's freeing. I mean, I can see it in your face when you're talking about, like, man, I left, I can get creative, I can do this, I can do that. It's like, what,
Yeah. Yeah. And people who get wealthy like that, people who build, like this guy, the funny thing is he used to always say, copy me. And one of the things in the business was, copy John. And his name's not John, but copy John, copy John, copy John. And he was the most refined from what I could see. So you could copy him in a lot of ways and it would really benefit you. But if you're really truly going to copy him, why don't you start worrying about, hey, what's my spread? You think he's worried about his contracts? He is, because they'll get up on stage and they'll stop talking about this carrier and they'll start talking about this carrier more because they gave him another point or another 2.5% or another nickel, another 5% spread. So try to see from their perspective. And if you truly want to copy him, you should be worried about some of the things he's concerned about.
Oh, absolutely. It's like some places, be engaged to all and married to none. When it comes to that, just you'd be real worried if you're in an agency that only pushes maybe one product, and maybe they're pretending like they're the MLM model, and maybe they wear, certain color apparel, and you're like, well, maybe it'll go to what you're talking about. So yeah, no, I appreciate it. Well, I'm sorry we're running out of time. This will be part 1. Okay, we'll do a part 2 with Kyle. Kyle, if anybody needs to reach you, brother, I appreciate you coming on. I'm sorry we got to cut our time short. Hate to do that. So we'll do another part 2 if you're all right with that. So
yes, sir.
I appreciate you, brother. So if anyone needs to reach out to you, can you let them know where to find your YouTube channel? I'll put some links in the description for folks as well. Would you mind sharing that with the audience before we?
Sure, yeah. So yeah, I have a YouTube channel. You just search Kyle Studer. It's STUD as in dog, ER. My website, if you're interested in working with me, we focus in final expense. You can go to kylestuder.com and scroll to the bottom. There's a contact card. And then social media, as far as like interacting with me, where I'm most interactive is probably on Facebook. If you're on Facebook, feel free to find me on there too.
All right. Well, I appreciate you, Kyle. Thank you so much, everybody. Be good. Be great. Don't drink the Kool-Aid. All right. Everybody, bye-bye.